Welcome to the Ultimate Tolkien Tournament. This is Middle-earth Madness. Hey everyone, welcome back. Third night of the second round of the Third Age Throwdown. We got some good fights coming to you tonight. I am joined again by Engine Chief, the maker and crafter of the battle engine that drives all of our fights here on Middle-earth Madness. Engine Chief, how are you tonight?
Fine. I'm trying to speak the way you do.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, with improvised quasi-British accents, maybe. Very Tolkienian accents. At least that's the idea.
Allegedly.
So, tonight. What's that?
Allegedly.
Allegedly, yeah. Yep, it cannot be proven. So, let me show you guys where we're at in the old bracket, shall we? Rum. Said Treebeard.
Rum.
That's right. Okay, so we did those last night. Tonight, we are beginning with Saruman against Samwise.
A one seed against a not one seed.
That is correct. Otherwise known as a possible beatdown, but nothing is guaranteed. And then we're doing Gwaihir and Quick Beam tonight. Great Eagle against a young, hasty Ent. And then Galadriel against Legolas. And then bringing up the rear is Balin against Radagast. So, I don't know, Engine Chief, if you have any predictions. Like in your bracket, did you call any upsets on any of these games? How's this region panning out for you?
Okay, so say each one again. Saruman what?
Saruman against Samwise.
Well, yeah. So, Saruman has a weakness against ranged enemies, but Samwise isn't a good ranged enemy, so you really, really have to favor him. What were the other one? Gwaihir against Quick Beam. Man, that's such a weird clash. You don't know what
Right?
to say about that.
Yep.
Who were the other ones?
Galadriel against Legolas.
Wow. Elf on elf violence.
That's right.
What's the other one?
Balin against Radagast. That's the 9 against 2 at the bottom of the region there.
Balin Radagast. Again, I think Radagast can be beat by ranged characters, but Balin's not a great ranged person, so yeah, I think the two wizards will survive tonight.
Yeah, it's probably a pretty good call. Probably pretty good.
No idea.
Cool.
I no idea in the Eagle Ent thing. That's just weird.
Truly. Yeah, it's I mean it's a great example. Not even humans or elves, right? It's just two mythical creatures that would never fight each other in the lore.
Yeah.
And we're going to see what happens when they actually do. Giant Eagle against Hasty Ent. So that's probably the one I'm looking most forward to. Although Galadriel versus Legolas is pretty cool too. But let us begin with Saruman against Samwise. Two very well-known characters here from the lore. Of course, Saruman. He goes back all the way to Valinor, being one of the Maiar, being one of the 5 Istari wizards. He goes all the way back to Valinor, studying under Aule, the Maker, the Vala of craftsmanship, right? And of course, Samwise Gamgee is Frodo's gardener from the Shire. So, not obviously favored to hang around too long in this fight, but hey, man. That's why we have to fight the fights. You never know what's going to happen. Samwise, how do you do in the everyone fights everyone regular season, well, not good. Second worst record that we have, I think, second only to Merry, might be Pippin. One of the two other hobbits was the only one who did as poorly as Sam. That being said, he's got some key victories that are noteworthy. Durin's Bane, he beat him. The Watcher in the Water, he found a way to defeat the Watcher in the Water. And Dane and Bull, both no slouches, okay? That being said, he lost 39 total fights, one of which was to Merry, one of which was to Grishnak, one of which, Ugluk and Bilbo. Other, 11, 12 seed type characters there. What does Sam have, on the offensive side, strength-wise? His stamina is very good. Most hobbits do have good stamina. So he's got 83 stamina, 73 striking with that barrow white blade. So again, the striking is a little better than you might think for Hobbit. And he, can hunk rocks if he gets in a pinch, right? He's got a ranged attack. All characters do, but doesn't mean they're good or useful. He's not going to want to use his ranged attack because the piercing, as you see at the bottom of the screen there, is only 38. He's accurate with those rocks. He can hit the guy, but it's not going to do a lot of damage, more than likely, unless the opposing character's deflection is also pathetic, right? On defense, Sam has good valor, good elusiveness, right? He's difficult to engage. And if you recall very fast our battle flow, center of your screen as we go along here, the first box you get to in the battle flow is there's a virtual dice roll in the algorithm to engage the other character, right? Don't think get married. Think you have to engage your enemy in battle in order to strike him. And then if you follow the pink arrows, you have to strike him to roll to ever even roll to wound him. And then if you wound him, you roll again to damage him. And then, how much damage can you inflict is kind of how the battle flow goes. So again, with Sam, Mr. Gamgee here, we're not expecting too much. That said, last year, he pulled a huge upset. I think it must have also been against a 12 seed like this. Yeah, because I think he was a 12 seed again last year. So he must have defeated a 1 seed and pulled this upset again. I want to say it was against the Balrog. So he's got it in him. It's somewhere in him. Which kind of, in a funny way, aligns with the lore, which I appreciate, because this guy, he was a dog. He was not ever going to quit, which is just awesome. And you see everyone fought everyone in our regular season. And so you see here, one of his key victories was Durin's Bane, the Balrog. So maybe there's a little knack that he has against the Valaraukar fire spirits, or maybe it's just luck. In any case, he's going up against another one of our studs, heavy hitter in this tournament, Saruman of many colors. Key victories for Saruman: Galadriel, Smaug, Elrond, and Treebeard. He vanquished all of them. He also lost, he doesn't have any really truly bad losses, but he did lose a few. He lost 14 total fights, and 4 that we highlight for you here on the card that he should have won, probably Barrow White, Boromir, the Olog High, and Elladan. Now, these are not low-ranked characters. These are mid-ranked characters. So again, no bad losses for him. And if you take a quick look at his stats, you'll see why. The only weakness he really has is he's not terribly ferocious. And unlike Gandalf, his melee, Gandalf, of course, has Glamdring to wield in battle. Saruman does not have a blade of worth. So he relies instead on his staff. His melee attack is not as strong. You'll see his striking 72, his ferocity's 65. He's going to want to hang back, rely on his magic, which is maxed out, 99 magic, which goes to the efficacy with which he can wound the enemy in the final stage of the battle flow. You'll note also at the very bottom, he's got 88 piercing, right? So that ranged attack is gnarly for Saruman. He's going to want to hang back and cast spells. Now on defense, 88 valor, 91 elusiveness, tough to hit the guy, tough to engage him in battle, and 99 spirit, so defense against magic, defense, and 1/3 of your overall defense is based on your 99 spirit score on defense. And then he's got magical deflection that's solid 82. The weakness, of course, is he's not going to win any fights with his armor. He barely has one of the worst armor scores in the game at 22. So that's a quick look at the stats. Let's bring up the battle engine and see what we're looking at here. All right, so you guys will recall the battle engine pregame screen here. Blue line is Sam. Green line is Saruman. Gives you a quick glance. It's a visual, mathematical, I guess, representation of the same stats we just looked at the cards, which are again here on the chart to the left. So, yeah, not too many advantages here for old Sam Gamgee. He's got a dexterity advantage, and that's about it. So, yep, beatdown potential here. But without further ado, as we welcome back Engine Chief. Engine Chief!
Hey
You
guys,
dropped, man. You're back.
Yes, and I'm going to have to go in a minute, but this is cool. Let's see what can happen.
Yep. No worries. Let's roll, and as the great ones always say, let us fight. All right, first fight of the second round, of the third night of the second round. We got Saruman against Sam Gamgee. Let us see if old Samwise Gamgee, the gardener of the Shire, can pull the upset. First attack goes to Saruman, and right off the bat, he gets a slight smite for 27 damage. All right, Sam, you got to come back here. With! And Saruman attacks. Another slight hit. Can Sam do anything? He attacks, he misses. Saruman attacks again. Cannot engage. Sam comes back. Oh, he's trying to use his battle white blade. He's engaging and cannot hit. All right, Saruman comes back. Can't hit either. And they're dancing. A hit there, deflected by Samwise. After 10 rounds, Sam is forced to use his less favorable weapon, which is punking rocks. Not going to do a lot against one of the Istari wizards. So through 10 rounds, advantage to Saruman. Let us see if wily Saruman can finish it. He attacks, misses. Sam attacks, misses. A wound by Saruman, only slight. Sam is not yet out of the fight. Sam, that said, he's got to draw some blood at some point. Back and forth they go through 15 rounds. Another slight hit there by Saruman. Like we said in the pregame, Saruman's hanging back, using his ranged attack, the Istari Incantation. Sam hits, no damage. Saruman engages, can't hit. Sam attacks, can't even engage. Saruman hits, wounds, and another fell stroke there. The wizard. One moment here. All right. So, it is Sam's attack. Bear White. That Bear White's blade is just not connecting. Saruman attacks. He engages but cannot hit. Sam attacks. Nothing. Back and forth they go. Two very elusive characters having a difficult time. Oh, there's a hit by Saruman just as I say it's difficult to engage. He engages and does more damage with another slight smite. And he is wearing down the poor hobbit. But you are never out of the fight. Sam picks himself up, dusts himself off, attacks, misses. Saruman counters. A hit, a wound, slay! And Saruman wins. Well, as expected. Although I will say, you got to be fair and say 30 rounds. It's a beatdown, but it took him 30 rounds, right?
Yeah, but it's 7-0 in hits.
Yeah. Yep. Saruman kind of playing with his food, you might say, but
did Saruman lose to any of the hobbits in the in the regular season, so called?
I don't think so. We were just saying he doesn't have a bunch of bad losses. The best ones we could highlight on his card here are middle seeds, like the Barrow, White Boromir, Olagai, Eladon. Actually, those are all top half seeds, I believe. So
Yeah.
no bad losses for this guy. All right, so in our first fight of the evening, Saruman shall advance, as expected. So just like the real tournament, we're starting pretty chalky here, which is has its pros and cons. I prefer a chalky bracket myself because it sets up fights between the real heavy hitters in the valuable rounds at the end. I appreciate an upset as much as anyone, but problem with upsets early on is then you get a putz who you kind of know, barring a miracle, isn't going to win the whole thing. And then, meanwhile, he's taking out one of your heavy hitters. So controversial topic there. I might be wrong, but that's my taste.
Do me a favor, please. Get out of here. Get out of here, man. Shit, I'm saying.
Well, they already disagree with me, Engine Chief.
Oh, man.
It's a tough crowd. But yeah, without further ado, our next fight of the evening. I gotta check what it is because I don't have it on my screen. It's going to be Guahir. Guahir against.
This is a good one.
Yes.
This is a good one.
Stick around, ladies and gentlemen. So, these two are going to duke it out. As we said in the intro, very unusual. That's part of why, we liked them in the same region to be the chalk matchup going on here. Although that's not true, is it? Because the 5 seed lost at some point. But it's not exactly chalk. Guahir technically upset Eladon in the prior round. So 6 over 5, quote unquote upset, right? But yeah, so it's the 4-6 fight that we're seeing instead. What do you think about this one while I queue up the fight?
I don't know. Let's show me the statistics. I don't know. Don't know all that much about the end.
Yeah, we know Eagles are
Guahir.
tanks on offense. That's the short way of putting it, right? That's not super informative, but you can see they don't have great defense.
Yeah, the armor's terrible. So switch over to the end now.
Can't yet. Keep talking.
Okay, well, you see a weakness for the Eagle, no armor, so and no deflection really. So yeah, they have weaknesses on defense.
Yep. Okay, now we can.
I guess that's shown. Oh, sorry. It's shown in the key losses. You had hobbits and stuff. Well, Gollum anyway.
Yeah,
Gollum, Théoden. Those aren't
true.
Those aren't great players, and they lost to them. So
yep,
they can.
And it goes to show you there's high variability with Eagles. Is maybe a good way to say it.
Yeah, maybe that's a good way of saying it. You can win to Sauron, you can lose to Gollum. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. That's the full range. Yeah, so that unpredictable.
Yeah, range.
They're like a 3-point shooting team that can get really hot, and we see them make runs, and then when the threes aren't falling, or for Eagles, in the analogy, when the other guy is ranged and getting hits, you can't. Your lack of deflection and lack of armor comes into play, and you're up against a tough situation. That being said, Quick Beam's ranged attack, he hunks boulders basically that are not accurate. So he's unlikely to really hit Guahir, but if he does, he's got 81 piercing. It'll be interesting actually to see if Quick Beam opts for melee or ranged in this one.
Yeah.
But yeah, some key victories. He lost Quick Beam, of course, we're talking about. He lost 24 fights. It's not great, but he beat Gandalf, Glorfindel, the Watcher, and Smaug. So some elite fighting skill that we're talking about, beating 1 and 2 seeds.
I lost to
Couple
Mary.
But yeah, and then he lost to his buddy Mary, and Gorbag and Ugluk and Faramir. So this is why.
Yeah. So
we must
anything
fight
can
the
happen.
fights. Anything can happen.
Yes, let's do it.
All right, let me get the battle engine screen up. All right, so blue line quick beam, green line Guahir. Gives you a little snapshot. We just talked about these, but the thing I wanted to see on this screen is Guahir prefers to use melee with the Windlord Talons, which is unsurprising. It's all he's got, really. And Quick Beam is going to also use melee. Try to hit him with the Gnarled Fists. Battlefield conditions favor Guahir, so characters will use their preferred weapon 85% of the time. That'll be interesting to watch, though, because Guahir has a really weak secondary weapon, basically just an eagle's cry that can, theoretically stun. If he absolutely has to use it, he'll try to scare or intimidate the enemy with an eagle's cry, right? Whereas Quick Beam actually can hunk boulders at you, and while they're inaccurate, again, if they hit you, you're in trouble.
Look, one of our odds makers says lots of defense here. We might be here a while, and I feel like the opposite is true. They both have defensive weaknesses. I feel like this won't last long.
Yeah, tough one to call. Let us see what actually happened, shall we?
You see how the blue and green lines are very opposite there? And
yeah.
So therefore, the red bars are all over the place. That tells you stuff's going to happen here.
Yes, good observation there. That's worth pointing out because these characters truly are. They're complete opposites.
Mm-hmm.
Let us fight. All right, we've got Quick Beam against Guahir, the Windlord. Let us fight. First attack goes to Quick Beam right off the bat. Instantly slay.
Whoa! I didn't mean that quickly.
Holy smoke!
Smoke-a-ronios!
He catches Guahir as he swoops and crushes the life out of him with his gnarled fists, and the hasty int is hasty indeed.
Wow.
I'm not sure we've ever seen that. Holy crap. One for the record books.
Whoa.
Drop in the comments if you guys have ever seen that. A flawless victory we have seen,
get a
right?
Screenshot. Actually,
yeah.
Wait just a second. I'm getting a screenshot. That was amazing.
A one-hit wonder, flawless victory by Quick Beam the Int. We'll be posting that on our socials.
Yeah, got it.
Cool. Yeah, that's completely bizarre. Well then. Bye-bye, Guahir.
Man.
So, check the bracket real fast. What does that set up? Go ahead.
I have to go in a minute, so maybe we can move on pretty quickly.
Yeah, that sets up Quick Beam against Saruman in the second round. So that's chalk. Yeah, no, that's
right. And Saruman has, holes in his defense, so Quick Beam could do something similar to him.
Absolutely. So that'll be a cool fight there. Looking ahead a little bit, but we have another two fights to get to tonight, and Engine Chief is short on time, so we're gonna not dilly-dally. We're going to go straight to the next fight, which is Legolas against Galadriel.
Yeah.
Elf on elf violence.
There's my call. I might be back, but
So what we have now is a battle of two very different elves. You might recall Galadriel, of course, is the last and eldest, and I guess you could say most noble of the Eldar, of the elves, but also of the Noldor, specific house of elves. Now, the Noldor are the most powerful elves, to make a long story short. You can think of them, like sort of this great ancient empire of elves with a very high lineage. But it's more than any human analogy could really illustrate. Really, what it is, they have lived under the trees with the gods, with the angels, in the houses of the Valar, overseas. Basically, they lived in heaven for a while, and so in angelic form, quasi-angelic form, they come back both different in the spirit world, and we see that at the fords of Bruinen with Glorfindel. There's a cool passage in there describing sort of through the lens of the shadow world what Glorfindel, in that case, another Noldorian elf, looked like, right? He looked like a shining star, imbued with this power, right? Galadriel is also from a very high house of the ancient lineage called the Noldor. Folks that are familiar with the Silmarillion will know exactly what I'm talking about. We're talking about the house of Finarfin, who's one of the three original elf lords that led the elves out of their birthplace in Cuiviénen all across Middle-earth to Valinor to dwell with the Valar for a while before Morgoth, the original Dark Lord, wrecked the party, killed the trees with Ungoliant, stole Feanor's hallowed jewels, the Silmarils, and then a lot of the Noldor made war, or tried to, on Morgoth, following him back to Middle-earth. That's how they came back to Middle-earth. They were by far the most fearsome contingency of elves, although there were some elves that never left Middle-earth, and that's a good segue to Legolas here. Legolas, if you know the lore, his elves, they called them Laiquindi, which means green elves, or sometimes they called them Moriquindi, which means the dark elves. And they call them that not because they're evil, right, but because they never saw the light of the trees. They were, and for a long time, after Morgoth destroyed the trees, there was no light except for starlight in all of Middle-earth. So Legolas is one of those. So the elves of Mirkwood descend, I believe, both from Laiquindi houses and from Moriquindi houses of Sylvan elves. But I want to say specifically the house. So that's all of the elves of Greenwood, right? But specifically with Legolas and Thranduil, his dad's lineage, I think they also have something in the family tree from the Sindar elves. And those were elves of Beleriand that also fought with the Noldor against Morgoth in the First Age. And they are not as mighty in deed or in strength or as in power or skilled in crafting as the Noldor were, but they're gifted in song and poetry and lore and wisdom, and they had the benefit of their royal lineage being imbued with the power of one of the Maiar, who was the first to marry an elf. So the lord of all the Sindar in Menegroth was Thingol, who's formerly called Elu, and you guys will have to fact check me on this. I believe he was Olwe, either Elwë or Olwe. Again, one of the three original elf lords that came out of Cuiviénen. So he never did go to the trees, though, because he stumbled into a glade in the middle of Beleriand, and he came upon a Maya named Melian. And Melian the Maya, who was a servant at one point of Yavanna, and she's the Vala of woodlands, of flora, of plants and trees specifically are kind of her jam, right? So she created all these lovely forests in Beleriand and all of Middle Earth, including Mirkwood, right? So it's I'm building towards why this is relevant to Legolas. And in Yavanna's forest, one of the forests, the full forest of Neldoreth, the exact same place where Beren would later meet Luthien, Melian met Thingol, and they fell in love, got married, had babies that were part Elven and part Maiar. That's Luthien. And then Luthien's son, with Beren, injected man blood into that, which gave birth to the half-Elven race. Also, the Sindarin people of Menegroth, which, they're Sindarin elves. Like Celeborn is a good example. Galadriel's husband. See, this all connects together, guys. That's why it's fun to go to Mordor. Galadriel's husband, Celeborn, he lived in Menegroth with Beren and Luthien, Thingol, and Melian. And so Galadriel's children as well, one of which was Elrond's wife. So Arwen's mom, that makes Galadriel related to Arwen too. Anyways, man, the half-Elven is a cool race because they're not just half-Elven, they're also a little bit Maiar, a little bit human, obviously half-Elven, half-human, and half Maiar. So they're half man, half bear, and half pig. Man, bear, pig. Which brings us, as you can obviously tell, right to Legolas, right? In a rambling sort of indirect way. Legolas, part Sindar, part Mori Quindi, part Lai Quindi. So he's green elf, he's Sindar, he's dark elf. This group of elves has been living it for a very long time in Greenwood the Great, which is an ancient forest, also originally seeded and sort of built. Let's just call it an old stomping ground of Yavanna, right? So old forest, maybe not as old as Fanghorn, where Treebeard is. But anyway, that's all to say, Legolas is a lesser race of elf, to put it politically incorrectly, but that's the words that Tolkien used, so I'm going to use it too. He's a lesser race of elf than Galadriel in terms of her being a Noldor, him being a Sylvan elf. So, little trip to Lodor there. But what do the stats say? The math that's actually going to drive this battle, is probably more relevant. I did not load the battle cards, so I'll tell you what we're going to do. Not going to wait for those. We're going to go to the bracket. All right, so Galadriel, we can see him this way too. They don't look as pretty over here. But if we zoom in, we can see her stats if you really squint, right? She got key victories against the Balrog, against Smaug, Glorfindel, and the Witch King. But she also lost to Bard, Balin, Thorin, and Beor. Now, the obvious question, the one that I asked when, we were creating Galadriel as a character is, well, it's actually a question a lot of people have been asking with the release of the new Rings of Power show, right? Which isn't that new anymore, but obviously it was controversial in the first season, her being like this blade-wielding warrior princess type that apparently was never married to Celeborn and apparently had no interest in really having her own family or kingdom or any of that, right? But the question we had to ask when making the Galadriel character like this and programming her stats is, well, did she ever really fight? Obviously, the show has put their spin on that story, right? And they say, okay, she's a blade wielding man-hearted elf, right? And there's hints of that in the lore. She was described as man-hearted at one point, which is fair. But no. Long story short, there was no story of her wielding blades physically in combat. So that's the version that we went with because I think it's truest to the lore, right? The show can do it at once. The show sucks. So we're not listening to the show. We're listening to the lore that Tolkien wrote. And let's just put it out there now. Y'all keep the receipts. And I'm going to make this call now. Someone gets a free VIP subscription if they can prove to me in the lore with text a place where Galadriel went into battle with a sword or an axe or a physical weapon. I want to see where it is, right? In any case, so save the receipts on that one and come at me. I'm ready for it. But barring that, one way or another, the version that we're going with here, and the version I want you guys to picture in the fights here, is the one that is wielding her ring of power. This is the third age throwdown, right? So we're talking rings of power. Her weapon is a ranged attack, and let me just try to get it up for you. 1 sec, I'll have it up. Sorry, for some reason I did not have these images. So yeah, she has the ring Nenya, one of the ring of adamant, the white ring. Here we go. Yeah, so Galadriel, look, her ranged attack, you might look at it 70 accuracy, 76 piercing. Not elite, right? He especially compared to Legolas. Look at his ranged attack. So if we switch over to Legolas, he is 90 accuracy, 80 piercing. So this might be setting up a pretty cool ranged battle here, guys, because here's the difference, though. I want to show you Galadriel. Ranged attack, not as strong as Legolas, but look at her other stats. 88 magic. And then on defense, 99 spirit with 90 valor and 84 elusiveness. So really, long story short, and you have to trust me on the details here, what that's going to mean is, see on the far right of your screen when we talk about extent of damage and we're doing these virtual algorithmic dice rolls for damage at the end, Galadriel's magic rating, which again is really high because of her ring of power and by virtue of her being one of the Noldor that we talked about, 88 magic is going to go as an addendum to her 76 piercing, and it creates a pretty nasty ranged attack. Not to mention she's hard to hurt on defense, not because her toughness is that great, and obviously she doesn't have armor, but because her spirit is maxed out. She's very elusive at 84, and her valor is 90. So what does that mean? Well, if you look at the blue defensive stats in the middle of this screen, her valor is 1/3 of the likelihood of her withstanding damage. Her spirit, again, which is matched out, another third of her likelihood of withstanding damage. And then her elusiveness, which is 84, makes it difficult for her to engage. Certainly made her difficult to engage by poor Celeborn being ditched in that show, didn't it? Very difficult to engage. He's off like hewing down cave trolls over there. So anyway, yeah, this has the makings to me of a ranged battle. They're going to hang out at distance and shoot at each other, basically, which will make it pretty cool. So I'm just reading a comment now. Executioner says, Legolas, man, bear, pig theory confirmed. Yes. You heard it here first. Excelsior. All right, guys, without further ado, let's get into this fight. I have to queue it up. While I'm doing that, you guys drop in the comments who picked who to win. Executioner, who you got in this one, man? Drop it in the comments. Let's go, Battle Engine. What are you doing to me here? Oh, here we go. Okay, so Galadriel against Legolas. Wait for it. All right, and we are ready to rock, guys. We are almost ready to rock. There we are. All right. Shall we fight? I'm going to answer my own question. Let us fight! Alright, now a third fight of the night. As the battle engine screen appears, we have a classic in the making. Galadriel against Legolas. Elf on elf violence, let us fight! And the first attack goes to... I can't tell. Crap's in the way. It goes to Legolas, but with his less favorable weapon. With his long knives, but he can't engage. Galadriel counters. She also is forced to use her less favorable weapon. She uses the craft of Melia. Interesting. For melee attack. They are stuck using their less favorable weapons. This is an interesting... another less favorable weapon fight. Here we go, back and forth. The Galadriel bow, he misses. Back they come with an injury here. Wait a minute. I wish we had Engine Chief here. Because I'm sorry guys, this is a bug. We're not gonna count this fight. Abort! Alright, apologies. We're gonna have to redo this one. Alright guys, we'll get back to you on that one. There is a bug in the soup, and it's making both of them use their less favorable weapon. We've come across this a time or two. We'll get that sorted for you. Sorry about that. Built all the suspense up, and now it's not going to work. But let me get Engine Chief on the horn here, and we're gonna refight that one for you guys a little later. Making a note. Okay, moving right along. Sorry about that, guys. The nature of programming. Sometimes we do have a bug here in the engine, and we just can't count this because they're not fighting fair. You know, they're both being forced to use. You know how I said before the fight, it should be a ranged battle that's with both of their favored weapons, and it's not letting them do that. So we're not going to count this executive decision. We'll work on that, and meanwhile, we're going to queue up the next fight. So moving right along, who we got last? Okay, here we go. So, Radagast against Balin. Now, this, again, so if we look at our bracket, this is should be a beatdown, right? But should be doesn't count for a whole lot. This is a 9 seed in Balin against a 2 seed in Radagast. And, but I want you to look at their battle stats here on their cards, because there could be a couple stats here that are worth paying attention to because of the way that these two fight. So, Balin, look at him real fast, or Balin, or Balin. It's definitely not Balin, but I'll leave the pronunciation to you guys otherwise. 24 and 28, not a great record. That's what makes him a 9 seed. He beat Treebeard, he beat Galadriel, Shelob, and Gwaihir, quality, right? And he won 24 other fights, but he lost some easy ones to Gorbag, Eowyn, Ugluk, Eomer. Look at his defensive stats, though, right? This guy's got a lot of battle experience. He is one of the most experienced members of Thorin's company from the events of The Hobbit, right? 90 valor, 83 toughness, 83 armor, decent deflection at 76, okay? No spirit and not great elusiveness. That's, dwarves are full contact. They welcome contact. They're not shying away from any blows. But if you look at how Radagast wants to fight, check this out. So, pull up Radagast. But where is Radagast? Wait for it. I got it here. Yeah, so... Oh, is it not on the screen? Sorry, guys. Radagast. Radagast, he's also going to want to do... He's probably in this fight going to want to prefer range. And that's 80 accuracy and 79 piercing. He has some spellcasting ability that's much stronger than his offensive stats, right? His melee ability. The weakness I want to point to, or at least I think I want to point to, check this out in a direct comparison. Look at Radagast's piercing 79 against Balin's deflection 76. That's pretty close, right? So the thing to watch, in my opinion, is going to be when Radagast does the spell casting. Balin's, it's pretty equal to Balin's deflective ability. Not to mention 83 armor, 90 valor, 83 toughness. The guy's got very good defense. All that to say, I think Balin, would I pick the upset? I can't because I'm Switzerland over here. But I think he's got a chance. I mean, I think he's got a fighting chance.
So you're telling me there's a chance? Yeah.
There you go. That was way too quiet. We're going to run that again. Lloyd, give it to me.
So you're
Lloyd.
telling me there's a chance? Yeah!
Exactly. Enough said. So, yeah, guys, without further ado, we're going to queue up this fight, man. Let me know in the comments who had the stones to sort of pick this upset. We're not talking about that fight anymore. We're talking about this fight. Radagast against Balin. I'd have been sort of tempted to... I'd have been sort of tempted, if I did make a bracket, to pick this one. That's what I'll say. And I think Chucky did pick this one, one of our other founders here. I think he had Balin making a sneaky Final Four run, and I like that pick. But only one way to find out here. We got to queue up this fight. All right. We've got Radagast against Balin. One second here. Now I don't trust this battle engine. It's broken my trust. Balin. There we go. Just going to make sure all of this is looking right. Radagast prefers ranged combat with his Yavanna's Gale spell. Balin prefers melee combat with a Dwarven Mattock. That sounds correct to me. The bug doesn't seem to be there anymore. So, check out what I'm seeing here, guys. Full transparency. We're not hiding the ball from anyone. We've got, so Yavanna's Gale, Balin prefers... So they should use their preferred weapons 93% of the time. Sounds right. Let's try it out. And by try it out, of course, I mean, let us fight. All right, to end the night, we have Radagast against Balin. Let them fight. First attack goes to Radagast with Yavanna's Gale. He hits, but fails to penetrate the dwarven armor. Could this be the theme of the night? We shall see. We shall see. Oh, I don't want the screen that. Or do I want the screen that small? Let's try it. Alright, back to the fight. Balin counters. With his Dwarven Matter, cannot hit. A Radagast casting spells, cannot penetrate. Can't hit. Cannot penetrate. A theme is emerging already. Back and forth they go. A hit and a wound. First blood drawn by Radagast with Yavanna's Gate. Radagast, of course, was a servant of Yavanna back in Valinor before he was sent as one of the Istari to Middle Earth. Istari, otherwise known as wizards. Alright, Balin counters. The Dwarven Magic. Not hit. Another wound by Radagast. Little more damage, not much. Man, Balin just can't hit him with that Mattock. He might have to start hunking daggers or axes or something. Yavanna's Gale also misses. Balin cannot hit. Another slight wound by Radagast, chipping away at the dwarvish armor. But Balin hanging in there. All it takes is one hit. We'll see what happens. Another wound, and there's the hit to even the fight in the 14th round. Balin uses his Dwarven Mattock, and he draws blood from the wizard. Radagast counters. He misses. Balin strikes. Cannot engage. Another wound by Radagast to take the lead in the 17th round. Balin tries to hit but can't. Radagast hits, tink, off the armor. Back and forth they go through 20 rounds, advantage to Radagast. But you're never out of the fight. Back and forth through 24 rounds, 25 rounds, hitting, taking off the armor. And Balin doesn't even have the best dwarven armor. Of course, he's a refugee, this version of the character, right? So he doesn't have the full, jacked mithril armor that might be in, his 1/14th share of Smaug's treasure, right? But even with substandard dwarven armor, still thin. Balin attacks, can't engage. Radagast hits, doesn't wound. Balin's hanging in there just enough. Can he pull the upset? Another hit off the armor. Balin attacks, can't engage. Back and forth they go through 32 rounds. Anyone's fight still, but the advantage is with Radagast. A wound and and now a heavy advantage to Radagast. 21 damage with that slight smite. The wizard is staying back, casting spells, not getting hit with that nasty Mattock. So chances are long now for Balin. When will Radagast finish it off? Back and forth through 40 rounds. Another hit, but no damage by Radagast. There's a slight wound, less than 1 point of damage. Can Balin hang in and pull a miracle? It's happened before. A wound, but not very much damage, only 2. Another wound by Radagast, only 3. Balin is down to 5 life. Back and forth, another wound, only 2. That dwarvish armor bailing Balin out, but he needs a hit, he needs a big one, and he needs it now. Will it happen? He misses. That might be it. Radagast attacks, hits, wounds, slay. Radagast the Brow wins. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Our 4 fights of the night. Really 3, though, because we're going to go back and get do-overs on Legolas against Galadriel. Speaking of which... guys, I'm going to go ahead and pause the stream. And by pause, I'm just going to go off camera. I'm going to check one thing. I'm going to try to get that fight to you guys before we break for the evening. So... listen to some nice Shire-esque music and wait for me 1 sec. I'll be back. All right, we're back, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry about that. Technical difficulties tonight. We have a bug in the battle engine that's going to need to get triaged. So we're going to break for tonight and bid everyone a good evening. Thank you for joining, everyone. As always, please consider, if you want to support, go and subscribe. Subscribe at MiddleEarthMadness.com if you would, please. We absolutely need and love your support. 2 subscription packages there on the website, one for $3.79, one for $13.79. Those numbers should appeal to the Tolkien fans out there. It was very much on purpose. So please, love your support. Follow us on all your favorite socials. We're on all of them, so just whatever one you guys like, we like too. And fights resume tomorrow night. We'll get things working, and we'll get back to Legolas against Galadriel. We promise you that. Again, apologies for the technical difficulties. Computers, man, what are you gonna do? I'm not the best computer guy, so they fight me just as hard as Legolas would have fought Galadriel, I'm sure. So with that, let's break for tonight, and appreciate you guys joining. Thank you all for the support and the chats and the likes and all that good stuff. And we'll be seeing you guys around. So, as Professor Tolkien himself once said, you cannot come to the morning light except through the shadow. Where there is light, there is always hope. You are never out of the fight. I'll see you guys next time.